Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate a stitch pattern that I have decided to call Neptune's Arrow. For this video I will be using Red Heart with Love in 2 colors and a US K hook, which is a 6.5 millimeter. Now, this stitch pattern, I already have a scarf for it. It's called Neptune's Arrow. It is a free pattern on mooglyblog.com. If you want all the details on how to make the scarf, you'll want to go to that. I also have a few more patterns coming out using this stitch pattern, so this is a great time to make the video. To sum it up, this is a multiple of 6 plus 1 plus 1, which means you start with any multiple of 6 and then 2 more when you're making your starting chain. Now, I've got here a chain of 20, so it's going to be a relatively short repeat of the pattern here. To make the very first row, I'm going to skip the chain closest to the hook, single crochet in the next chain. There we are. Then I am going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Then going into that same chain that I made the single crochet in, I'm going to work a double crochet 2 together cluster. Now what that means is normally when you work a double crochet 2 together, you make the 2 halves into different stitches. Since this is a cluster stitch, they're going to both go into the same one. So as you can see, I've started a double crochet here, but I stopped when there were still 2 loops left on the hook. I'm going to yarn over, go back into that stitch one more time, in this case a chain, and then with 3 loops left on the hook, let me get my yarn loosened up a little bit here, I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So I've got a single crochet with a chain 3 and a double crochet 2 together cluster all worked in the same chain there. And then I'm going to chain 3 again, and I'm going to skip the next 5 chains here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the chain after that, I will work the same thing. It's going to be a single crochet, followed by chain 3, 1, 2, 3, then a double crochet 2 together cluster into that same chain, remember we're both halves of the double crochet 2 together in that same chain there. Then we chain 3, skip 5 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6th chain, start over. Because this is a short number of repeats here, this is gonna be our last one of these. Chain 3, like so. Double crochet 2 together into that same chain. If you didn't catch how to double crochet 2 together into the same stitch, be sure to rewind and watch that part over again. Okay, and then there are 6 chains left, so we know it's time to chain 3, like so. We're going to skip the next 5 chains and work a single crochet in that last chain, and that's where we're going to end row 1. Now this is a stitch pattern where you have 2 active loops at once. So what we're going to do is, instead of breaking the yarn here or slip stitching with the same with a new color into this stitch and starting to work with that, we're going to keep this loop active. So what I'm going to do is pull it up nice and high. Now I didn't bring out any stitch markers, unfortunately, to get ready for this video. I forgot that part. But if I were going to be making a full project with this, I would be sure to put a stitch marker in this loop, because as you're working with the other yarn, sometimes as you pull and tug, it'll start to pull out and then you'll lose your stitch. So putting a stitch marker in here is a really good idea. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn it. I'm going to keep this active loop here, but I'm going to start working with our second color. So let me bring that in. I've got a white here. I've got some pulled loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my hook into that last single crochet we made in the previous row. I'm going to hold these off to the side out of the way here so that they don't get tugged through and they don't get in the way of the new row. And I'm going to do a chain to attach the new color, and then I'll worry about weaving in that end later. I'm going to chain 2 more. So I start with a chain 3 here. I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to work a double crochet in that same stitch. Now that first chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and then we work double crochet in it, so it's like we've worked 2 double crochets in that single crochet there. Then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to work a I'm going to work a single crochet. I was getting ahead of myself there. We're going to work a single crochet in the top of the cluster. Right there. Easy enough. Chain 1. Now we're going to work a V-stitch into the single crochet at the base of that cluster. Well, I guess before the cluster. So a V-stitch, of course, is double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in the same stitch. So you can see it makes a V there, like so. Then we begin again. Chain 1, single crochet in the top of the cluster, chain 1, V-stitch in the single crochet, just like so. And we're almost all the way across again, of course, because this is just a small example. So after our V-stitch, we chain 1, single crochet in the top of the cluster, chain 1, and then here we are at the end. And instead of working a V-stitch in this last single crochet, we're going to mimic what we did at the beginning here with our chain 3 and double crochet with just 2 regular double crochets right here in that last single crochet. And I think I called this a small V-stitch in the written pattern for the Neptune's Arrow Scarf. It's like a V-stitch without the single crochet in between, or excuse me, without the chain in between. So just 2 double crochets in that last stitch. Now we're ready to pull up the loop on this one. Sorry. All right, so now since I've pulled up that loop again, I would put a stitch marker in this loop to help keep it secure, because it's time to come back to that first loop we made. Thankfully it didn't pull out on us, despite my forgetting the stitch markers this time. I'm going to turn it back when I insert my hook to make sure that I've got the loop on there just right, because when I pull down on the active yarn here, you see it's the front loop, the front half of the loop I should say, that's moving through the stitch. I want that on the front of my hook. So I'll pull that back down to a workable length here. I'm going to go ahead and chain 4 and then turn. Okay, so now I am going to work a single crochet in the top of the chain 3. Remember, we're treating that as if it's a double crochet. If you are interested in not working to the top of the chain 3, not using chain 3s here, you can substitute a standing double crochet, which I have, or a chainless starting double crochet once you've got more rows going here. I have video for tutorials for both of those on the Moogly blog YouTube channel and on mooglyblog.com. So, but back to the standard stitches here. We're going to work a single crochet in the top of that chain 3, and then we're going to be basically repeating what we did in row 1, but of course we're going to be working into stitches. So we're going to chain 3 and work a double crochet 2 together cluster also into the top of that chain 3 there. Like so. And then we chain 3 again, of course, just like we did before. And this time, instead of skipping 5, what we're going to do is we're going to come all the way over to that next V-stitch space here, which in a way is skipping several stitches. We're skipping this, we're skipping the chain 1, we're skipping the single crochet, we're skipping the next chain 1, we're skipping that next double crochet that we want to work into the chain space. So right in that chain space, I'm going to go ahead and single crochet, pull up a little more yarn. This is the one thing when you work with 2 active loops like this, sometimes you'll have to sort out your yarn. I had quite a bit here pulled up for the video, so it's a bit more hanging off the skeins than I normally would have. But one thing that can help is if you put them in some sort of container, like a small plastic box, and then you can spin the skeins as you work. So a little tip for patterns like this. But back to the actual stitch pattern. We've single crocheted in that chain 1 space, and we're going to chain 3, work our double crochet 2 together cluster in that chain 1 space. Okay. Then we chain 3 and go back to the next chain 1 space. And you can see this pattern actually moves very quickly. Double crochet 2 together cluster in the chain 1 space, just as before. And then chain 3, and here we are at the end of this row already. So we've come to the end, and in the previous row, remember, we ended with 2 double crochets, so we're just going to single crochet right in the top of that last one there. And that's it for row 3. So we'll pull up our loop nice and high. Again, put a stitch marker in it if you have one handy. Hopefully you do. And then you see we've got both our active loops here on one side. So what I'm going to do is kind of hold the one we just made up out of the way a little bit. Get my hook back in the first one there. Whoops. Pull it down to a usable height. And what I'm going to do now is I actually want to get the one we just made over the hook. One of my hairs got in there. There we go. And in front right now. So what I'm going to do is chain 4, just like I started the last row. And then I'm going to turn it to work back the other way. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that the active loops here are in back and not coming around the side to the back. I want them to kind of be over the top to the back. Then I can use the unused fingers here to kind of hold them out of the way. All right, so now we're ready to begin row 4. So I'm going to work a double crochet right in that last single crochet there. And here we've got our 2 double crochets. When I chain 4, that gives us 1 to get over, 1 chain, you could call it, to get over the single crochet here up to the next row, and then 3 chains that count as our first double crochet. So from there, it's just as before. We chain 1, single crochet in the top of the cluster, chain 1, V-stitch in the single crochet at the bottom. Just like the previous row. So I'll move through this rather quickly since I walked you through it before. Single crochet, chain 1, V-stitch, chain 1, and begin again. And then when you come to the end, you chain 1 and work 2 double crochets into that last single crochet. And then from here, I think you've seen all the rows. We're just going to keep repeating rows 3 and 4 all the way to the end till you get the length you want. And that's all there is to Neptune's Arrow stitch pattern. Again, be sure to check out the Neptune's Arrow scarf on mooglyblog.com and keep an eye on mooglyblog.com because I have a few more patterns coming out with this stitch. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoy it, and please subscribe to our channel.